Good afternoon, everybody out there in viewer land, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of The Rundown. I am your co-host today. Well, no. I'm the host. He's the co-host. So let me do that again. I am your host today, Mike P. Waworski, coming to you from the right coast, from the East Coast, here on Hump Day.
Yes, sir. And I am Craig DeLuz, coming to you from I guess that would be the wrong coast, or the left coast. From the left coast, West Coast, here in California. My name is, once again, Craig DeLuz. And it's a pleasure to be here with you on Hump Day.
Hump Day. Craig, yes, it definitely is the wrong coast. We have at least one story today to point that out again. So
We do. Yes, we do. And it is the Californication of the left coast. It is very scary for those who live in Oregon, Washington, or any of our bordering states. It's kind of funny. Half of them blame California for the issues going on in their state. But I always go back to, you guys everyone seems to think it won't happen in their state. Well, you know what? Right. It will if you're not careful. Let me just tell you.
Yep. You got to put up some border walls. What you got to do, checkpoints and all sorts of barriers. And just make it happen,
Yep. Be standing there at the borderline. You ain't going to be bringing that stuff in here.
Where are y'all coming from? That's where y'all's going to.
Pretty much. That's kind of how it's got to be.
Exactly.
So any special plans for Hump Day?
No. This is kind of really like a first full day back to work. We had travel day Monday, and yesterday was recovery day. How was your recovery day?
After the program, I basically sat on the couch most of the day, and which was pretty much I haven't gotten to do in like 3 weeks, so it was actually very, very nice. I did do some cleaning. I cleaned off my DVR.
Oh, there you go. No, I did a little bit of the couch sitting yesterday morning because, I have to. I do my resting in the morning because we do the show in the afternoon. You did your show in the morning, so rested in the afternoon, right? Isn't that how it works?
Pretty much.
Difference, something like that. So, yeah. So it sounds like we both had similar days. I did a little cleaning of the not the DVR, but of the downloaded TV shows on my phone that were for the trip that I never watched. So, and I was about to lose them. You only get them for so many days, so I had to watch them.
Well, the hardest part for me is I am literally immersed in the news all day with what I do for my clients. So to just be away from the news was a pleasant thing, but it was almost unavoidable. It was like, okay, I shouldn't comment on this. I shouldn't comment on this. I shouldn't read this. And so by turning on the boob tube, made it a little easier to ignore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's the way you do it. Those channels without the news, just do it that way.
Exactamundo.
But then, the news, Craig, we should probably get to some.
Why don't we do that
at some point? Let's jump into our first story. This one's already causing some dismay around the media industry as well as in the government. The former President Trump's policy, the amnesty, the stay in Mexico policy. So what this policy was, if you came to the border and you said, I'm here for amnesty, I'd like to get a hearing, well, you had to stay in Mexico until your hearing date came around. And that's been going on since March of 2020. And if folks, if you think about it, that coincides with the lockdown for the COVID. So this was not a I hate Mexicans thing by the president at all. This was a I love America. I'm going to try because everybody wants to stop COVID. So we're going to lock everything down, including the border. And that's what this was for. Well, as soon as President Biden took office, they reversed this policy. It was appealed down there by a judge in Texas. It was now recently upheld by the Supreme Court and says that this policy must stay in effect. And the U.S. government has less than 1 week to figure out how they're going to do it. And it is now the Supreme Court's order to do so.
Well, Mike, the thing is that, okay, just first of all, as a matter of foreign policy and just administration and how you do things, this policy only makes sense because, number one, If you don't know if you're going to grant them asylum, do you really want to just let them in, let them into the country? And once again, they're not bringing them into the country and holding them. They're bringing them in many cases into the country and then just giving them a court date and setting them free. And then they're never to be heard from again. But then when you put it on the backdrop of, we're locking everything down, if we're locking down everything down in the country, don't you think we ought to be locking things down at the border instead of allowing people to come into the country whose health and vaccination status and COVID status we have no idea about? Instead of allowing that to happen, don't you think we should? Well, why don't you stay where you are and apply for asylum where you are instead of just showing up at our border and us just letting you in? That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and again, I think this has much less to do with foreign policy as it does to protecting medical issues with COVID. Because again, we had the Democrats last year, 2020, push and press President Trump to get COVID restrictions in place and lock us down. Because remember, we had to lock down for 2 weeks, Craig. We had to flatten the curve. So that's what President Trump did at the border. Well, as long as the Democrats want to drag this out and continue with this mask crap and everything else, and the vaccination cards and or passports, as long as they want to continue with that, well, then we should continue to protect our borders, right, and keep COVID from coming across. That's what this is. I'm sorry, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's one way, not or the other. You get both. You can't have both sides. You can't have both sides of the argument. You get one side. You're either protecting us from COVID or you're not. That's all there is to it.
Completely agree with you, brother. Completely agree with you. There's not really a lot. There's not really a middle ground there. It's, you protect the country or you open the borders. One of the two.
That's right. But the moment you open the borders, you better get rid of your vaccination passports and your mandatory mask mandates and all of that, because at that point it must mean that we are perfectly secure here in our country.
One would think that sort of logic takes place. But the problem is, I guess, now here's the thing that Biden has proven. When you're senile, you can be on both sides of the argument. Maybe not at the same time,
that's right.
But you can say the exact same thing within minutes of each other and just forgot what you said a minute ago.
He wants his ice cream and his tapioca. He can have them both. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, ridiculous. All right, let's move on to another way that California is the wrong coast. Let's just go there. This was in Torrance, California. Where's Torrance, California?
That would be Southern California. Basically Los Angeles.
Okay. I think, all right. Gotcha. Torrance, California. Okay. Hundreds of recall ballots found in a felon's vehicle. Now, there was a guy who was passed out in a car at a 7-Eleven there in Torrance, California. He had, he had some narcotics on him. He had a little tiny firearm on him. Tiny firearm, still a deadly firearm, folks. He had, what do you have? There was some alcohol there. There was a scale for the drugs, and over 300 ballots from the upcoming election there in California. So, Craig, I saw this story and I thought, wow, there's no ballot fraud. There's no full scale ballot fraud. We don't have to worry about that. But this is the way it's handled. You and I talked about this several times. It's just as much as when the terrorists do their jihad. They put out the jihad. They give up command and control to the smaller tactical units and let the individuals take part in what they want to do to create that mayhem and that terror. This is the same thing that happens with the election fraud that happened last year. There wasn't a giant command structure making people do it, but they sure as hell let people know that it was encouraged and they wanted them to do it. Now, that's the same thing this guy is probably involved in. All of a sudden, boom, we got more election fraud going on in California. But Craig, within hours, I got to read this part of the story to you. Within hours, the police declared that this was an isolated incident. This was
because we know they know that. They know that for sure that it was an isolated incident. The fact is they don't know, Mike. They have no idea if it's an isolated incident or not. And that's what tends to piss me off when I see stuff like this, because you don't know that. You literally, there's no way you can say you know that. Because, oh my God, the guy could not have possibly, lied to you.
Police said new election ballots were being sent to those identified through the investigation, and that the incident was not tied to any additional thefts of election ballots. Craig, you see, they said it, so it's clearly not tied to anything else.
Right.
It was not immediately clear how the ballots ended up in the suspect's vehicle or what he intended to do with them. But Craig, the incident was not tied to any other thefts of election ballots.
They don't know how it happened. They don't know how he got them, but they know it didn't happen anywhere else.
That's it. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful.
How do you literally look the media in the eye and say no? Let me clarify. I expect people to try and lie. What I don't understand is how does the media just sit there and just accept that as an answer? Are they really that stupid?
Clearly, it's been investigated by the U.S. Postal Service and the Los Angeles County District Attorney Public Integrity Unit. So, the Postal Service will get around to it in about 8 or 10 years, and the Police Integrity Unit in Los Angeles, I believe they were unfunded last year, Craig. They were
I believe that. Yeah, exactly. They unfunded the Police Integrity Unit.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Lord. Well, here's the thing, man. We've been in California. We have known for a while that our elections are not necessarily on the up and up, and that is largely because we have a Democratic Party who promotes sending out as many ballots as you can to whomever you can, and not verifying or proving who exactly is returning those ballots. There have been a number of convictions for electioneering in the state of California, and nothing like has made major news, but there's enough for people to be like, yeah, there's some major problems here, except that the Democratic Party and the mainstream media seem to completely and utterly ignore it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just, again, how do you believe the media on this? And I mean, this thing, even though I couldn't even read the story, Craig. I got to there and I was like, had to reread it 3 times. I know you and I have done this many times before on the air. Read 2 sentences next to each other and cannot fathom how they go together.
Yeah.
Just their suppositions and conclusions are just absolutely criminal.
No disagreement here, brother.
Listen, the only one I can think is they said it's not tied to another theft. Maybe they physically meant there was no rope between these ballots and another ballot, and they were not tied to that other ballot.
I think you're onto something, Mike. I do believe you're onto something.
It's the only way that sentence makes sense. That it's not tied to another theft.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right, let's switch on to a couple of members of Congress that took some initiative here, and thankfully they're okay. But we have 2 representatives of the House of Representatives, members of Congress there in D.C. One is Representative Seth Moulton, Democrat out of Massachusetts, and the other is Representative Peter Meyer, Republican out of Michigan. A couple of junior, congressmen representatives there decided this past Tuesday, Craig, they were going to Kabul to see things for themselves, to find out what was really going on. Now, again, both a couple of vets. Moulton had been to Iraq at least 4 times, and we know Meyer had served at least 1 tour there in Iraq as well. So both Army combat veterans, and wanted to take a look. My understanding, they went there most of the way civilian. You can't get in to the Afghanistan right now unless you're on a military flight. So they hopped a military flight, an empty military flight. They wanted to be clear, say that. They went in on one of the empty cargo ships, did some looking around. They were there less than a day. And then before they left, they hopped on a military cargo ship that had extra room. There was an additional 3 or 4 seats available after they got on that they couldn't get filled. So they didn't take anybody else's seats, is the point they were trying to make. Well, they talked to the military commanders there, and the military commanders just shook their head and said, not a chance in hell we get everybody out of here by September 11th. No way, no how.
Well, that's not even the August 31st deadline that was originally set. That's 11 days after that. It's amazing, and it's nice to see that people take their roles as representatives and leaders seriously. It took 90 days to get the vice president down to the border, and I don't think the president has been to the border yet.
Well, that's
and
a
yet
long
still
trip
you have
for
these two
him.
congressmen who basically, once again, they weren't making a big deal out of it, but they went by themselves. They went to go because you needed to check it out. Sometimes you need to go and see things on the ground. What is going on? What is taking place? What are the people who are dealing with this stuff on the day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute? What are they seeing on the ground? Because somehow, either one or two things is happening. Either the information is just not filtering up to the president, or the president is misrepresenting it because he's not all there, or because he's just lying to the American people and just doesn't want to admit that he messed up. Either way, what the president is communicating and what is coming out of the White House is very different than what is going on the ground, and it seems to be one of the biggest takeaways from these congressmen's trip.
Yeah, and that was it. Listen, I don't know what the rules of congressmen traveling out of the country is. I don't know if there's any policies or procedures, or they have to let the Secret Service know or anything like that. But they got there, found out the information, and I think that was the military side of both these guys. At this point, the party doesn't matter. They teamed up, said, "Let's go. Let's find out what's really going on." And they've both been very critical of the current administration of the treatment of military members. So they went over there to see if they could do anything to help, or at least be able to come back and report the truth without the bias from the administration or from the media.
Well, and that's what needed to happen. We need to know, the American people need to know the truth.
Yeah.
And most importantly, policymakers need to know the truth so that they can start to set forth policies that will bring our people, our citizens home, and hopefully help us to be able to protect and bring back as many of our allies, those who've helped us over the last several decades, make sure that we're able to protect their lives.
Yeah. Folks, I don't know if you've noticed that. We kind of alluded to it a little bit here. During this whole evacuation process that's been going on for the past 2 weeks now, Craig, almost 3 weeks, you've seen nothing from reporters over there. No reporters have been allowed over there. There's no reports coming out. Even the good reporters. Listen, when people like Jim Acosta started attacking the president, they yanked all reporters out of Afghanistan. There's nobody there to report anything to you at all. This is the first pieces of information we've seen come out of there, and it's from members of Congress. So.
Right. They don't want, they probably don't really want the real news coming out of there, to be honest.
Yep. Exactly right. All right. Let's keep rolling right along. This one, Craig, the next one hit you and me right in the old pocketbook there. This is one we were definitely, we've already got money invested into, and we'll have to figure out how to get it back. So this affects a lot of people around the country. The National Rifle Association's annual meetings and exhibitions, the 150th in Houston at the George R. Brown Convention Center, has been canceled as of yesterday afternoon. It's right after we went off the air. We had this one on standby, ready to go. So within about an hour after we went off the air yesterday, it was canceled. You and I, Craig, have been talking about this for at least a week. This came up. And I've spoken to, and I believe you have as well, many of the board members from National Rifle Association. I'll give you the public view, and then I'll give you what I know. So how about that, Craig? The public statement says, because of all the COVID going on in the Houston area and all the local government, a little bit of a more liberal government, and the school board there especially put a mask mandate into effect, that they don't want to bring anywhere between 60 and 100,000 people into the town of Houston. And what that might do for COVID, of course, because you have the Delta variant now that's out there on double secret probation. So that was the official reason. We had it was 8 or 10 of the major players, the big names. Your Smith and Wesson's, Colts, Beretta, not Beretta. I'm sorry, Beretta State. Many of the larger American manufacturers decided that they didn't want to go, and the official reason again was COVID concerns amongst employees. Craig, that's what I've heard there. That's the official statement. What's your take on the official statement? Then we'll get into a little bit of the unofficial, what we're hearing.
My word on the official statement is I don't believe them. Yeah. I don't believe that's the reason why.
This is less than 10 days. It's also less than 10 days. I want people to understand this, that probably 40, 50,000 people from around the country are going to be flying into this. Less than 10 days now. So you got hotel reservations that are up in the air. If you got an Airbnb, you're screwed, which is about half the people now. And your flights are gone. So there's no way to get a flight back. I spent $200 on my tickets to get there, Craig, and I could go get a change fee and move them somewhere else. So it's just going to cost me an extra $400 to move a $200 ticket. So,
I'm finding nowadays, man, with travel, it's almost like you got to get one of those things where you can either get a refund or you can at least be able to reuse, transfer the tickets to another thing, because it's just, with stuff like this going on, you never know when stuff is going to get canceled. And it's just kind of funny to me that the group that's supposed to be about liberty and yada 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 is would be caving into, a COVID scare. But I don't believe that's the reason why.
Here's what I'm hearing on my little inside sources, is that this is less to do with COVID and more about the internal turmoil inside the NRA. We know that embattled NRA executive vice president, or whatever his title is, Wayne LaPierre, the executive director there, is he's been rogue for 4 or 5 years now. He's the guy with you got girlfriends stashed in $25,000 apartments, like monthly apartments. That's the cost for the monthly, and clothing allowances to them. He's wasting the donors' money. He's trying to reorganize. He's moving. He's running. This guy should have resigned 5 years ago, and the NRA would be fine. But it's not. He's continuing to hunker down, and instead of just going home. I mean, they've got Craig. Anytime he leaves, he gets an additional $6 million retirement bonus. He's got $100 million in the bank, which is ridiculous to think of somebody in charge of a civil rights organization having that much money for being their leader. Go home. Let the organization heal. The part that hurts me the most, Craig, is 90% of those people in the NRA have no idea that any of this is going on, because they get their little letters in the mail that say we need a donation or gun rights are under attack, so they send it in. Mm-hmm. Craig, this is the part that I think we're ready to talk about. These big guys that said no, this wasn't COVID. This was their fight against that. This was their protest against what's going on in the NRA.
Well, and I completely agree. And it's really kind of sad because, at this point, whether or not you want to argue that without taking away what Wayne LaPierre has been able to do for the NRA and help make the NRA, the fact is he's now at a point where there's a crisis of leadership, and he's not in a position where he can effectively lead the organization. It's just come to that point. And to a certain degree, I think he needs to step aside just so that the organization can get new, fresh leadership and start to move again and be able to be functional again. Because as long as he is there, he is an easy target for whomever it is. Whoever wants to attack the NRA doesn't need to attack the NRA. They just need to attack him. And he has now become the NRA's weak spot. And if he cares about the NRA, then he needs to recognize that. If he cares about the work of the NRA, he needs to recognize that and step aside, and quite frankly, move his ego aside. And I think unfortunately, that ego is what's causing him to stay. And it's just, and there are many people who are loyal to him, and they're loyal to a fault, but their loyalty should be to the organization, not the individual.
It should be to the mission of the organization.
Yeah.
And support the organization as a whole, like you said, not the individual at the top. It's like we talk about, just like the presidency. I support our government, and I support the office of president. I don't like the president right now, but I support the office of president.
Right.
I don't want a king in there or anything like that.
Right. So. Well, one of the good things that's starting to happen is you're starting to see organizations like the Firearms Policy Coalition, like the Second Amendment Foundation, like Gun Owners of America are really starting to get a stronger, a more visible role in the gun rights movement, which is good because each of the organizations is a little different, has a little different perspective, brings a little something different to the table. And thus, I believe that in the end, for those who think that the challenges that the NRA is facing means the end of the gun rights movement, let me tell you, the NRA is not the organization. The NRA are the individuals who give hundreds of millions of dollars to the NRA and to other organizations, and their energy, their involvement is not going to go away even if the NRA goes away. you're going to see these other organizations step up and fill that void, and you're going to be attacked instead of just being attacked by the one big organization. You're going to see a lot of organizations, national organizations, coming at you. So once again, if y'all think you are winning by going after the NRA, just know that it ain't going down like that.
Yeah, let me give you this. The companies that pulled out were, just so I make sure I get them correct, were Benelli USA, Browning, FN Herstal, Kimber Manufacturing, Savage Arms, Smith & Wesson, Springfield Armory, Sig Sauer, Sturm and Ruger. Those were the big boys that pulled out. And again, now the excuse given is COVID. Again, what you and I are hearing, Craig, is that it was more to do with the internal politics of the NRA. I wish these companies would come out and say it. I wish they would say it. You know, if you want to hide behind the cowardice of COVID, you're just hurting your own pockets, as far as I'm concerned. You want to come out and say that the NRA needs to fix themselves before you want to dump $1 million more into their pocket, then that's what you need to say.
Well, because that's how you get the public pressure. I'm sure that they're probably saying that behind the scenes.
Yeah,
but they need to say it publicly.
Yeah, well, I agree, and I think they hurt themselves more by doing this. I think there's more conservatives that will not buy guns from them now over this COVID thing, rather than them backing out because of the their objection to the way Mike, that the NRA is being run.
Well, no, you're right, and the problem is that it's they're doing it, I believe, out of respect for the legacy of Wayne LaPierre, and what they're not understanding is, he's not getting it. You're trying to be subtle, and you're trying to drop hints, and until the public, right, the members at large as a whole are calling for Wayne LaPierre to step down or to be removed, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's too late. His legacy's done. It's over. It's tarnished. Listen, for the 90% that are not paying attention in the NRA, his legacy's fine. It's time to dogpile on the rabbit. Let's get him out of there.
Right. Nope. Completely agree.
All right, let's move to San Jose. They seem to be a great topic of ours. They're always good for sound bites about once a month. If you recall, they passed an ordinance 3-4 months ago now, I think it was, Craig, where they said that they wanted you to have gun insurance in order to own a gun. And they're, which is obviously illegal, I believe, against even your California law there. And their city attorney said, we can't do this. I can't even write this. There's no way for me to even to do this now. And so they're still struggling with even writing the ordinance. Well, now the mayor decides that he's got some new words. Craig, I'll let you share those concerning their new ordinance for insurance on ownership of a firearm.
Well, exactly, Mike. He made it very clear that his goal in this whole thing is not about making sure people have liability insurance, right? It's not that. It's not about making sure, because what we know in the end is there's no way to get this insurance, because you cannot insure against an illegal act. You simply cannot, right? It is something that is against the law. And as they've tried to pass this at the state level, that's exactly what the insurance companies have told the state of California, have told the state legislature, which is why they haven't passed insurance mandates. But here we've got what Mayor Liccardo, this is what he actually said. He said, and we're talking about non-compliance with these ordinances, right? He's like, we didn't want to criminalize the failure to get insurance, but there would be fines, and there would be the ability for, most importantly, I think, the police to seize guns. Now, he also went on to say that the new law provides an easy mechanism to get an unsafe gun out of unsafe hands. Folks, he's making it very clear. Look, gun confiscation is the goal. He's not interested in actually trying to make sure people have liability insurance. He's saying specifically, I want to take people's guns. And so if you can't get insurance, which, by the way, we know that you can't get this insurance, if you don't have the insurance, well, then, now we're going to come and we're going to send the police to your door to confiscate your firearms.
Coming to get your guns, baby. That's what it's always been about since day one. This is what we've been telling you, what everybody's been telling you. Anybody with any background in the Second Amendment, any background in history has told you that this is what it's been about, confiscating your guns, and they'll take any method possible to get there. This one happens to be the insurance. You have to have the insurance. Yeah, my ass. You're here to take my guns. That's it. That's all there is to it. Tyranny.
Exactly.
This guy should be arrested by your next governor.
Right. No, and the thing is that I want to, this goes back to what we talked about. We talked about qualified immunity or immunity of politicians. When you have a politician who passes something that they know is not legal, this guy right here, and now he's announced what the actual goal of it is.
Yep.
Not for people to get liability insurance. I'm sorry, this guy needs to be thrown. He needs to be removed from office and needs to be thrown under the jail.
Yep.
He needs to be arrested and thrown under the jail. Period.
We need to throw him across the border and let him seek asylum trying to come back.
I don't disagree. Okay, moving right along, Mikey. I think it's time for a parting shot.
Yeah. Hold on. What was the guy's last name? The mayor's last name? I don't know.
Licardo.
I wasn't making a Mexican joke. I just want to throw him out of the country.
Licky Licardo.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I wasn't trying to make a Mexican joke. Let's just throw him. I can throw him in Canada. I don't care. Just get him out of our country.
Just out of the United States.
Yeah.
Send him to some socialist communist country.
There we go. Send him there.
Where he'll be
like
more
California.
at home.
Wait, what?
Well, Mike, I got to tell you, and I thought about this particular parting shot because with everything that's been going on, with all the stuff that's been going on in Afghanistan, I guess this was just so appropriate. And it's kind of funny that when I picked this out, you were like totally fit because you saw one just like it. So we could sure use a mean tweet right this right now. This was the tweet that he sent to the Iranian president. I don't forgot when he sent this. There it is right there in 2018. Never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence or death. Be cautious. The sad part is that was totally true up until, was it January 20th, 2021?
Yeah. You didn't hear from Iran for 3 years.
Nope.
It was just like, they were like, okay. Saudi, we'll be quiet.
We are Saudi.
We're Saudi.
Please don't bomb us. Don't bomb us.
We meant to say Happy New Year, Saudi.
Yes.
Saudi.
That's what they were saying. Now it's like, this guy?
Yeah. They're like, where's our checks? We want
our checks? Exactly. Please send us our checks.
Listen, I saw the tweet yesterday, I think it was, and it said, boy, I sure could use a mean tweet about now. So same thing. We had the same impulse going here on this. So sure couldn't we? Let's see how it goes. Maybe I'm going to go out and find 300 election ballots at my 7-Eleven, and I'm going to send them.
Well, once again, I will continue to say Donald Trump is far from a perfect man. But I think that if you look at what he did during his 4 years as president, you look at what he was able to achieve, you look at the candidate that was running against him, I think a lot of people predicted. No, let me clarify. People predicted that Biden would do poorly. I don't think most of us thought that his administration would disintegrate this quickly. It's been, what's it been? Not even 8 months? Oh, no, a little over 8 months. Mike, to all of y'all out there who didn't like Donald, who wouldn't vote for Donald Trump because you thought he was mean, you thought he was rude or crass. Well, now you see what we got.
Yeah, exactly right, Craig. We're at 7 months and 5 days with this guy right now.
7 months. Oh.
And
even worse.
And it's it's a whole different world, isn't it? I mean, it really is. The world is a different place now than when we had somebody that cared about America first, and taking care of us.
Think about that, folks. Massive inflation, gas prices through the roof.
Yeah.
We've now stranded thousands of Americans behind enemy lines, put their lives in danger. We've abandoned billions of dollars worth of equipment to terrorists. We've handed it over to terrorists. We've abandoned and left our allies hanging, twisting in the wind. Our name internationally is mud. And all that in 7 months.
Greg, what we have now, and it's horrible if you think about it, we have the incompetence of the Carter administration combined with the corruption of the Obama administration. That's where we sit right now.
Could not have said it any better. But at least with the Obama administration and the Carter administration, they may have bungled everything, behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, but at least they weren't senile.
Well, again, incompetence is senility, right? It's what you get. So, we just happen to get the combination of the incompetent to corruption now. So
it is said. Hey, before we cut out, let's make sure to pay a quick homage to our sponsors. We very much want to thank Grid Defense and Guerrilla Machining for supporting the program. Please make sure you guys visit their links. It's in the description of the video. Also, want to thank the California Republican Assembly for sponsoring and sharing this program and helping you folks to be a part. Remember, recall election coming up. Make sure you vote in the recall. This is California, so vote early and vote often.
Get to 7-Eleven and pick up your ballots.
Just look for the car with the guy passed out in it. Just reach into the trunk and grab you a couple of ballots.
Get you a couple. You'll be good to go. Thanks for joining us today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, folks.
Like, share, and subscribe. We'll holler at you later.